Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without family quarrels over politics, young and old, liberal and conservative. Elections wouldn't be elections without social media. It's not that social media are good or bad, but it's about the effects that they'll have on the European elections this year. So join me, Jan Darasz, for How We Got Here.
Social media has shaped opinions on politics by giving preference to some narratives while censoring others, including banning powerful politicians such as the US president.
But when you have companies that have the power of governments, have far more power than traditional media outlets, something has to give.
This time around, it seems that with Meta ditching centralized fact-checkers on its platforms earlier this month, politics have shaped social media.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact-checkers and replace them with community notes, similar to X, starting in the US.
And all of the fine-tuning is done in preparation for a new era, the Trump era.
I think they've come a long way. Meta, Facebook.
The re-election of Donald Trump as US president is in itself an example of how social media influences politics. Reports by the Associated Press showed that ex-owner Elon Musk's endorsement, coupled with his Super Political Action Committee's injection of around $200 million, boosted Trump's campaign. But governments have taken social media to task as well. In August 2024, Brazil's Supreme Federal Court ordered the suspension of the social media platform X because the company failed to appoint a legal representative within the country and would not remove specific accounts disseminating misinformation, among other reasons. The suspension remained in effect for over a month, during which X took steps to comply with the court's demands. In early October 2024, the ban was lifted, allowing X to resume its operations within Brazil. Other times, during the COVID pandemic, for instance, the Chinese government censored social media posts about the outbreak and stringent lockdown measures. The censorship went beyond the medical realm, targeting accounts of market analysts like Hong Kong-based Hao Hong. His Weibo account, boasting 3 million followers in May 2022, was shuttered, and his WeChat account suspended after a series of gloomy commentaries on COVID-19 lockdowns, triggering slumpdowns in China's economy. All while governments enjoy some sway over social media platforms, this cannot be said of the millions of users whose say in their favorite messaging platforms' policies is doomed to remain largely unheard.
I'm joined today by Bartosz Kicior, Assistant Professor, Sociologist, Media Expert at the SWPS University here in Warsaw. Welcome once more to the programme.
Thank you for having me. Welcome.
In the 1930s, it was radio and cinema. In the 1950s and 60s, you could say late 20th century was the television age. Now it's a very social media age. The arguments for the liberalisation of information and exchange have been there since the 1930s, and the arguments against the disadvantages of these media have also been seemingly repeated. Is that something that makes social media not an exceptional form, or is it something special which radio, television, cinema didn't have before?
On one hand, we see something similar to what we've seen with this transgression you've mentioned from radio to television. Our society faced something new, and we observed the reduction of complexity concerning communication via mass media. But then I think you missed one step, and I mean the step from traditional television to internet, but without social media in the 90s and early 2000s. And we also had this discussion about is internet going to change the way we communicate? And also we've heard the voices saying that it's nothing new. And about social media, I think it is new concerning on some mechanisms Of course, this is yet another transgression, yet another transition from the old to the new, but still we should not undermine it, and what we should do if we are discussing about this change, about this really big step from television to internet and towards social media, is that we have to observe how it actually works, because once again what we have is the medium which is owned by private companies, but on the other hand it strongly influences our societies and how our systems work.
Can you extrapolate or explain a bit more about this concept of the reduction in complexity? Does this mean we, over the last century, this century, have adopted a simplistic, naive, more stupid way of looking at the world and ourselves?
More or less, yes. Take a look at how social media communication, how social media content looks like. It's short, it's quick, it's simple, and it's packed with information. We are consuming it, or rather, I should say that companies standing behind all those technologies, they want us to consume it in a really big amount, but in really small portions. We stopped basically as a majority consuming huge long portions of material, of content, like we had in the radio period on the television. Television itself, it changed as well from the old type, long and rather calm, quiet way of communication to this well, let's say louder and quicker and more colorful way of showing images. Then we had this transgression concerning internet and social media. So, as you said, I can basically agree with that. That what we see is the rise of simplicity of communication because of social media. What we also see is this return to picture communication, to communication via pictures, via images.
The old
like
Egyptians,
like we had before,
hieroglyphics.
Before the text age. Yeah.
So the text, the written word, has its limits. Is that, could we say that democracy also, in the sense of the mass liberal democracy, has reached its limits? Where do we go from here, from this fast-paced slogan, pumping out slogans? Where can you see social media going? Do we all explode in this at some point?
I think
what's the logical conclusion?
I think we actually see it right now. It is exploding right now. I think this is the peak of this unstoppable development and just rapid development. And what we see right now is rather the discussion on how to limit it, how to slow it down, and how it actually works. Because once again, like I mentioned, it's being owned by private companies. So this is a company secret, how actually some mechanisms look like concerning all the algorithms, all like spreading the content. So we don't have the entire knowledge on how social media work right now. We may guess, and we have brought a picture here, but still we don't know all the nuances. And if the company wants to change something, we don't know basically until it's done. So of course this is their law. And this is perfectly fine that they keep their secrets. But on the other hand, if it influences, if it has an impact on our systems, like on our democracy, as you said, This is what's really dangerous. So the way I see it, I think it's not going to develop as fast as it is right now. And upcoming years, maybe this year even, we will be discussing limitation and the control of it.
Yes, we discussed that on our previous discussion about banning the social media, especially in countries like Australia. But if we turn over to Europe and the effects of social media on the elections, are they exaggerated, or is it a simple case of big companies telling us how to vote, where to put their X into the ballot box? They seem to have gone from being a libertarian medium in the original form, free expression, to being something a bit more right-wing, if that's the correct use of the word, and restrictive, shifting the spectrum.
I would not say that the companies are telling voters how to vote, but there are people using the technologies to do that, and right now it is, to be honest, the first serious discussion right now we have because of the elections in Romania. And until the end of 2024, we had at least a couple of examples of how social media can impact the elections, but we did not have strong evidences towards it. Right now, because it happened in the European Union, and we are quite privileged because we have this very new, very fresh law that is called DSA, the Digital Service Act. We can somehow control and we can force the provider, TikTok in this example, to show us the numbers and to show us how some campaigns were conducted during those elections. Like I said, we had a couple of examples in the USA. 2016, Brexit, for example, 2019, Honduras, which was flooded with fake news on Twitter back in the day. Just recently in Moldova, we also observe it. We've had the elections in Romania.
One of the candidates went from almost 0 to 20%. Now he's gone to 40%. Social media seems to accelerate that pace. But does any interference mean censorship at all? And why do we have to censor free expression, even if it is the expression we don't like or we don't want to hear?
Because it is about the rules of how the algorithms work for one candidate and the other one. And in this case, we've seen that the algorithms, they were basically, really long story short, cutting down, and they were limiting the reach of the content concerning all the other candidates. But this particular one, he did not have all those limitations. So it raises concern. Is private company allowed to move the posts during the game?
Professor Kicior, thank you very much for coming on to our programme once more.
Thank you for having me.
That's all we have time for today. Do join us next time for How We Got Here.